What's up, guys? Today we've got a pretty big main story, and this one hits pretty close to home. I'm talking about roads crossing and Merge 56 in Torrey Highlands, a project that's changed directions more times than I can count. Plus, I've got updates on tiny homes trying to help fix our housing crisis, a project in Harmony Grove that just got approved, and a 7-story building coming to downtown Oceanside. But that's not all, so make sure you stick around until the end for all the best scoops on San Diego and how they affect your life. Alright, let's get into this Merge 56 story, because if you live in North County or thinking about buying there, you should know about it. Here's the thing, if you drive through Torrey Highlands or Rancho Penasquitos near the 56 freeway, you've probably seen that huge piece of land south of the 56 that's been stuck in development limbo for years. That's the Merge 56 project, and what ends up there will affect your commute, your home value, and the whole feel of the neighborhood. So back in 2013, Seabreeze Properties bought a 42-acre site off Camino del Sur and the 56 freeway. The plan was huge. Over 500,000 square feet of retail space, a movie theater, a food market, and 242 homes. It was supposed to be a walkable area with shops and restaurants so you could grab dinner or coffee without jumping in your car. But once the pandemic hit, things changed pretty fast. By 2020, when they started grading the land, developer Gary Levitt realized the retail world has shifted. Streaming was hurting movie theaters and online shopping was crushing regular stores. So Levitt said they needed to rethink it. The retail space got smaller, the movie theater was dead in the water, same with the food market. Now, we can't talk about Merge 56 without mentioning Roads Crossing, which is the larger development that Merge 56 is part of. The original Roads Crossing plan was approved back in 2004, and developer Keith Rhodes got permits for 150 single-family homes, 584 multifamily units, a storage facility, and a shopping center space, all on 147 acres near Camino del Sur. And after that, the land got divided up. The part that became Merge 56 was sold to Seabreeze around 2012. Then they teamed up with Lennar to build the Arlo residential development, which was built between 21 and 22, and those are the homes and townhomes you see there now. The single-family homes were sold by Lennar, but the townhomes were originally supposed to be for sale, ended up being rentals. And then another 7-acre piece was sold for apartments. That's the Folia apartments you see off Camino del Sur. It's a 4-story building apartment with some pretty hefty rents. But now Keith Rhodes still owns about 35 acres of the original land. In June of 2022, he went back to the city asking to change his plan again. Instead of 52 single-family homes at a 3.5-acre park, he wanted to build 511 apartment units and wanted to get rid of the park. So sounds pretty great, right? That's about 10 times more housing, which means 10 times more cars, 10 times more people at your grocery store, and 10 times more pressure on your schools. That's a lot of 10 times. So here would be the new breakdown. 94 condos in one section, 83 in another, 287 apartments in a 5-story building that's 87 feet tall, and 47 senior apartments. And speaking of housing, I'll tell you soon about another housing project in Harmony Grove that just got approved, even though it's pretty controversial. But I'll explain that in a bit, so stick around. Now, at the September 2022 Rancho Penasquitos Planning Board meeting, neighbors showed up to talk about real issues. Traffic on the new 2-lane Camino del Sur road that's already packed during rush hour, schools that are already full, and definitely the biggest complaint, a 5-story building right next to existing homes on Senda Panacea Road, which I can tell you the neighbors are thrilled about. And if you own a house there and suddenly there's a 7-story building blocking your view and sunlight, that changes your quality of life and probably your property value too. The change still has to go to the San Diego City Council for approval, and that could take a year or two or maybe even longer. So if you're house hunting there, you're buying into a lot of uncertainty. But wait, there's more. Seabreeze Properties has been trying to change their part too. The latest plan for the Merge 56 section was supposed to be 3 biotech buildings, a boutique hotel, and some retail and restaurant space. But now, word is Alexandria, who owns part of the land there at Merge 56, might sell their share to a home builder. And that means instead of labs and a boutique hotel, we could see even more housing with maybe just a little bit of retail. Nothing's confirmed yet, but this could be the 4th or maybe the 5th change to the plan. And if your kids go to school in Torrey Highlands or Rancho Penasquitos, those schools are already packed, so where will all the new students go? Bigger classes, maybe new boundaries, who knows? And if you bought a home expecting walkable shops and restaurants but got even more apartments instead, your neighborhood could look and feel very different than what was first planned. So what does this all mean for you? If you drive Camino del Sur every single day, get ready for hundreds or even thousands of more cars in a few years. Your 15-minute commute could potentially double. And if you're selling, buyers will ask what's being built nearby, and that uncertainty makes selling harder because no one knows what's coming. But from a real estate point of view, when plans change this much, it means developers are reacting to the market and the economy. Big mixed-use projects take years, sometimes decades to finish, and they almost never end up looking like they first planned, and this one is definitely one of those. There's also a piece of land located just north of here next to the Intuit building that's owned by Kilroy Realty. This was supposed to be another office park of sorts, but I'm hearing now that Kilroy has sold off 5 acres of land to Lennar to build more homes, likely townhomes on those parcels, and is looking more likely that they will sell off the remaining parcels as well. So is Merge 56 going to give you a walkable neighborhood? Maybe a biotech campus with no place to grab lunch? Or maybe just more homes? Honestly, your guess is as good as mine at this point. But here's what you should do. do. Ask questions, talk to the city's planning department, look at what's approved versus what's just proposed, and more importantly, keep watching my videos as I keep you guys updated on everything that's going on here in San Diego. Because the headlines don't always match what actually gets built. But before we move on, if you're still watching, you clearly care what's really happening with development in San Diego and how it affects your life. That's what we cover every single week on the San Diego Scoop: real estate updates, market changes, and new construction that actually matters. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now here's something that could actually help regular people afford to live here in San Diego. County planners just approved tiny homes on wheels to count as standalone homes in unincorporated areas of San Diego County. Now, I know what you guys are thinking, tiny homes on wheels, but hear me out because this one could be a real option for people who've been priced out of San Diego. Jenny Crane from Rebuilding Green has been pushing these hard. She said there's still a stigma around tiny homes because they're on wheels, and people want to call them trailers, but they're not trailers. The model home they're showing in Santa Isabel is 399 square feet. It's got a living room, a full kitchen, a bathroom, and a full bedroom. Everything you need to live comfortably, just a little bit smaller. And here's the part that really matters. Prices range from about $60,000 to about $100,000. Compare that to a median price home in San Diego, which is around $900,000 or more. That's the difference between never owning a home and actually having one. Crane said most of their clients are seniors on fixed incomes, young adults just starting out, and single parents. She said 9 out of 10 people who have come to them haven't been able to find housing that they can actually afford. And speaking of affordability, in a few minutes I'm going to talk about the 7-story Oceanside project and why only 10% of the units are actually affordable, so stay tuned. Now, the county still applies the same zoning rules to tiny homes as regular single-family lots, so they're not stacking a bunch of these together. So if you've been priced out, if you're a first-time buyer who can't pull together a $180,000 down payment, this could be your shot to stop renting and start owning. Or if you're older, want to downsize, and don't want a huge mortgage taking up your retirement money, a tiny home could make a lot of sense for you. But the catch is they're only allowed in unincorporated areas right now. So you won't see one in La Jolla, but you could find one in a more rural spot. And if you're okay living outside the city and care more about owning something than having a big space, it's definitely worth looking into. Look, I am not saying that tiny homes are going to fix everything, but when people are spending half or more of their income on rent with no chance of owning anything, we need new ideas like this. But now let's head up to North County because a new housing project just got approved and the community is pretty worried about fire safety and evacuation routes. Alright, so the County Board of Supervisors just unanimously approved the Harmony Grove Village South project. It's 453 homes on 111 acres with single family and multifamily housing, some commercial space, parks, and trails. But the big problem is that it's in a high fire risk area with only one way out. Nearly 100 people showed up to the hearing wearing "Don't Burn Us" t-shirts. Many have lived through fires here before: Harmony Grove in 1996, Del Dios in 1997, and the Cocos fire in 2014. Nancy Reed from the Elfin Forest Harmony Grove Fire Safe Council said we're in a new era of massive, fast-moving fires and don't have enough firefighters or trucks to stop them. This project was approved under pre-2018 rules, so under today's fire standards, it wouldn't qualify because it poses an entrapment risk. That means new families could move into homes that wouldn't be approved today. Experts warn the project increases ignition risk, slows evacuation times, and leaves no real protection if evacuation fails. One wrote out, "Bumper-to-bumper traffic and fast-moving fire. It's the same kind of danger we saw in Paradise in 2018. After the hearing, the board added brush clearance requirements and told staff to explore a second exit route, but residents said that should have been part of the plan from the start, and for some reason, that responsibility will now fall on the residents instead of the developer. Board Chair Tara Lawson-Renner said she's received thousands of comments about safety and housing. So that's the tension here. We need more homes, and labor unions support the project for jobs, but what good is housing if it puts families in danger? JP Thepridge from the local town council put it best: doesn't it defy common sense to approve a fire risk project that wouldn't pass today's standards? And if you're thinking about buying in Harmony Grove or Elfin Forest, know the fire risk is real. But that pretty much goes for all of North County. Check evacuation routes, ask about safety plans, and talk to neighbors who have actually lived through it. Because with 1,000 more cars on that 2-lane road during an emergency, safety is not just a concern, it's a question of survival. Alright, now let's move over to Oceanside, where a major downtown project just got approved, and surprisingly, not everyone's happy about it. Okay, so Oceanside City Council just approved a 7-story building with 326 apartments, plus restaurants and shops at 401 Mission Boulevard. It's replacing the old Regal Cinemas, which had been struggling, and 4 businesses in that plaza that closed over the last 2 years. Nearly 5,000 people signed a petition to save the plaza, and Mayor Esther Sanchez called it iconic because it was a big community gathering spot. But the developer made some changes. They increased the plaza size from just over 9,000 to over 15,000 square feet, added more restaurants and shops, and built 554 parking spots. Mayor Sanchez was quite impressed. So of the 326 apartments, 33 are affordable, just 10%. Most apartments will be 2 or 3 bedrooms. More people downtown means more customers for local businesses and a livelier area. But here's the frustrating part for a lot of locals: only 10% is affordable. Community members pointed out that most low and middle income families still can't afford these new units. Market rate rent is just too high for most local workers. But still, bigger plaza and more shops are good for people living nearby. You'll have more public space to hang out and more places to walk to. But the developer doesn't have a full timeline quite yet. Demolition will take at least a few months and permits about a year, so probably 2027 or maybe even later. For homeowners, this shows downtown is growing, which could raise property values. But if you're looking for affordable housing, this just isn't it. Just 33 out of 326 units. Alright, just one last story, and this one's actually good news for once. Okay, so the Carlsbad Theater is almost 100 years old. It opened on February 8th, 1927. There's even a rumor that Charlie Chaplin spent time there back when stars toured with their films. Pretty cool, right? But here's the thing, for years it's been empty and people worried it would be torn down or turned into just another retail space. But the current owner, Raft Pacific Group, just announced they're restoring it as both a cinema and an entertainment venue. They plan to host live shows, stand-up comedy, panels, workshops, and eventually an annual film festival. For people in Carlsbad and nearby, this really improves the quality of life there. Ken Cabo, who started the Save the Carlsbad Theater Community Association, said he's always wanted it to be a place where people could spend an evening downtown. And a local actor and educator said there's a real need for performance space. Local art groups rehearse in Carlsbad but have to drive elsewhere for shows. This theater would actually give them a home. So this is a great example of development done right. It preserves history, creates a gathering spot, and gives people a reason to walk downtown and support local businesses. I'm a big fan of this one. Raft Pacific Group is seeking permits and hopes to welcome audiences back later this year. And for anyone who likes having things to do close to home, this is something to get excited about. Alright guys, that's a wrap on another episode of the San Diego Scoop. So what do you guys think about Merge 56? Are you guessing what that land will actually become one day? And that Harmony Grove project, does the need for more housing beat the fire safety risks, or should it have been rejected altogether? Let me know in the comments. And if you're thinking about buying or selling here in San Diego, or just want to talk about how any of these projects might affect your wallet or your property value, send me an email at bern@off56.com and let's chat. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss next week's episode where we cover more news that actually matters to you. Thanks for watching and catch us next time. Bye!